In 2012, at the Rio Plus 20 conference in Brazil, world leaders, governments, NGOs, and other groups came together to shape how we can have environmental protection in an ever-growing population to have the future we want. Today, we find out what climate change is, what are its causes, and how to deal with its adverse effects.
U-report is a free SMS-based system that allows you as a young Ugandan to be able to speak out on issues affecting your community. Conrad, let's show them how to join.
Well, as he said, it's very easy to join. Just text the word join and send it to the number 8500. All text messages are free.
After you text the word join to 8500, you will receive a greeting and a couple of questions asking to know more about you.
After you've answered those simple questions, that's it. You're a U-reporter.
As a U-reporter, you will receive weekly polls and information that will help you be able to enact change in your community. Uganda has experienced extreme weather events, frequent and severe floods, droughts, and changes in the rainfall patterns, which has affected planting calendars, crop yields, and in some extreme cases has led to destruction of property and loss of lives. Floods recently washed through various parts of Kasese, and the effects still remain enormous in the district. Thousands of people were displaced, homesteads were destroyed, and several roads and bridges were also damaged.
You see, what has really happened is that on 1st May 2013, we experienced a very big disaster, which has not been in the history of Kilembe at least 50 years back. People are continuously cutting up trees in the mountains. When it had rained heavily up in the mountains, water came too much, and because in its way it found that they had cut trees that were alongside the banks. The original path of the river is like 100 meters away from where I'm standing right now. And when water came, swept away the houses, like you see this trench here I'm seeing all over, it was a straight line of houses. All were swept away. And those others you see remaining were damaged beyond repair. People were in there, and around 4 people were drowned by the what? By the waters as the whole house is being swept away. Others lost properties worth millions of shillings. So really this is unbelievable, but I believe it is as a result of the effects, visible effects of climate change. As a youth, I encourage my fellow youth mates to plant more trees. At least when you cut one tree, make sure you plant at least around 5 trees, such that we shouldn't experience more disaster like we are seeing right now.
We sent out a poll question asking the U-reporters, what do you see changing in your environment? And what should the government do about it? Is it more flooding, more droughts, loss of forest, or is it the uneven rainfall pattern? Within 20 hours, 64% of the U-reporters that responded observed that loss of forest is the major concern across the country. In the West Nile districts of Maracha and Yumbe, U-reporters identified drought as their primary concern. And here is what other U-reporters from across the country had to say about it.
With the climatic change in Tororo, it has always been characterized with both positive and negative effects. Yeah, it has enabled the society, the Toro community, on the side of agriculture. It has really helped. People are able to grow food, and have always capped the problem of famine in Tororo district as a whole. Now, another issue is the negative effect of the climate. We have got the fraud. Like the last year, but one, we had fraud that knocked Paya. It cleared the vegetation, and people's homes were swept off.
Most areas that were affected by the climate change, there are these mountainous areas whereby they cultivate land without putting there the ridges, without planting trees. So when it rained heavily, all the soil was just washed away. And it affected these lowlands because in the lowlands there was agriculture, plants that were in the gardens, and everything was swept away.
There has been change in the farming system, for example, whereby due to drought, people have not been able to do a lot of farm work. Places have been dry, crops have dried up, and that one has really affected. Now the youth can respond to that problem by planting more trees.
Here in Bushenyi, climate change, it has affected us seriously, as in terms of incomes, because when you are grazing like a cow, of course, here in Bushenyi, most people they are earning from cows, they're earning from maybe their plantations, banana plantations, but the drought has affected us very much. The produce is little, the milk products are very little.
The climate has affected Mbale district in very many ways. Like it has brought, there is a drought, a lot of sunshine. It has affected mostly the farmers. By the time they would like to cultivate their crops, the sun is too much.
Too much sunshine that causes a drought. The grass has dried up. Our cows have failed to get grass for eating. Then they produce true milk.
Many factors which has affected our climate here in Mbale, especially the topography of the area of Mbale is somehow hill and mountainous. So land we have problems like landslides, soil erosion.
Here in Gomba, we are facing a problem of climate change, whereby farmers no longer know the exact seasons where they're supposed to grow certain crops, whereby they plant knowing that they're going to harvest high yields, but end up producing very low.
After the break, we meet the U-reporter that attended the Rio +20 conference on sustainable development as she shares with us her experiences. Remember, your voice matters right here on U-report.
If I'm to ask the government to change the education system,
for someone to go into marriage,
someone
never have
the government can come in and say now.
Have your say. Text the word join to 8500 for free. U-report, because your voice matters.
I'm Najita Mariam from Bombo. I'm proud of being a real reporter.
What are you waiting for? Join and be heard. Your voice matters.
U-report is a free SMS-based system that allows you as a young Ugandan to speak out on what's happening in your community. It's very easy to join and get your voice be heard. Simply text the word join and send it to the number 8500. It's free across all networks. This week we are talking about climate change, and we are joined by Fatuma Namukose, who represented us at Rio +20 conference in Brazil. So Fatuma, as young people, climate change, is it a topic we should be discussing, and why?
As a young person, it is very important for you to understand the issues of climate change, because what happens today is going to affect our future, and the future is yours. So what kind of world do you want? Do you want a world full of famine, droughts, floods, hunger? Okay? If that's not the kind of world you want, then it's important for you to understand what climate change is, what effects it has, and what we as young people can do to make our world a better place. At the Rio +20 conference that was held in Brazil, the world leaders, first of all, recognized that there was an effect of climate, and they agreed to do things to try and manage the effects that climate change was having on our planet. They agreed to manage carbon emissions, to promote a green environment, that is plant trees, reduce deforestation, and also manage our water bodies like seas, oceans, and lakes. Because effects on all of these things is what causes the negative effects of climate change, like drought, famine, landslides, things that we are experiencing in Uganda today. There are so many simple things that U-reporters can do every day to reduce the negative effects of climate change. For example, plant a tree or two at your home. Those who are in school, you have the environment clubs, use them, plant trees, okay? Put a tree in your school or something, you know. This reduces negative effects of climate change. Proper waste disposal. Do not throw buveras every day. You drink straws with soda every day. Use these straws to make bags so they don't just go to waste in the community like that, okay? Those who are farmers, you can carry out organic farming. It's one of the ways we can try and manage negative effects of climate change.
Government, first of all, should introduce other energy resources so as to conserve, so as to prevent the rampant cut down of trees. Because in our villages, people use trees for fuel. In so doing, they cut off all the trees. But if the government, for example, insisted on, impact on rural electrification so that people, all households can access power, then the problem of climate change, I don't think it would be anywhere anymore.
Now, like farmers of being ignorant of cutting down of trees, that is due to soil erosion. Now I encourage them to plant more trees to prevent on soil erosion and floods.
Here in Mpigi, there is a lot of deforestation, swamp reclamation, so that what I'm informing the government of Uganda. Government should teach people how important is afforestation, agroforestry, so that our climate is improved.
I was of a view if the government can come in to empower the youth, they can do a lot because they're the young, energetic, they have got a vision. But now they're afraid to implement those visions because they don't have funds, like to come up with the new methods of agriculture, coming up with new methods of cultivation in our society.
Sensitizing people about exactly what climatic changes mean, because there are many people who are not aware of all different climatic changes, and you find a person staying in an area where there is a way where water must be passing, and that person builds there a house. So if that person is aware of a climatic change, let me say an example of floods, he will know that he's not supposed to build in a such place. So they should be aware of all what happens.
The natives living in Vassat, they somehow ignorant, so they did some trainings like with the youth from here. So we have a lot of to do to train all the people living in the village so that they can also adopt that mind of controlling those problems.
We as youth could encourage people to appreciate and look at the functions of trees and in our environment, because people need to be sensitized, need to be informed that the trees are as important as their life is, because much of our own life really rotates on the green plants that we are having.
And as the youth, the only thing we can do is to give them information, health educate the masses, form youth clubs, perform like in music, dance and drama, all games that can give a message on how the community can respond towards handling the issue of climate change.
One of the U-reporters from Jinja responded by telling us that more droughts have been brought about by high levels of degradation and poor implementation of government laws. Now, this reporter is absolutely right. And today on the show, here with us is the representative from National Environment Management Authority, well known as NEMA, to give us more information on climate change.
Well, maybe we could first understand what is climate. In a simple term, climate is what we would say a long-term conditions in terms of temperatures, rainfall, wind, sunshine, all these, actually in schools, we call them elements of climate. These are the the small things that make up a climate of an area. So for example, rainfall in a year cannot make a climate for an area. That's just weather. So climate is a long term, at least from 5 years.
We would like to know what are the visible effects of climate change, especially here in Uganda.
Areas that used to have high peak rainfall twice in a year, they're having now less, once or even none. At the same time, some areas are getting floods. So floods are increasing, droughts are increasing, landslides are becoming a problem. We know what happened in Bududa, we know what happened we know what's happening in other parts of the country. Some time back, or some 2 to 3 decades back, areas like Kigezi, especially Kabale, didn't have malaria. Because by that time, the weather could not sustain the survival of a mosquito. But because now the weather is becoming warmer, where the mosquito can even now survive. So now you get malaria in Kabale. Now you get the people of Kabale are growing matoke. Those days it was too cold for matoke to survive in Kabale. But because it's getting warmer in the matoke, it does better in a warmer area. There it is now in Kabale.
Every other day we see the wetlands being encroached on here in Uganda. What are the importance of these wetlands?
The wetlands recharges water during dry season, therefore maintaining the climate of that area cool. But the wetlands also absorb the storm water, the flood water for us. So wetlands play a very big role in regulating a particular area. Now when wetlands go, it means the local climate, the microclimate is not regulated. And that's why now we have issues to do with the droughts. That's why we have issues to do with the floods. Because now the area that used to be wetlands are bare. They have been cemented due to construction and other civil and other infrastructures. So instead of now the area being spongy to absorb the flood water, it now becomes it now helps the water to move fast or to cause more damage. Okay? Now instead of these wetlands regulating the temperature during dry season by giving some local rainfall, there's nothing. So the area becomes hot, dry, and therefore eventually we get droughts.
Please tell us what the young people of Uganda can do to slow down the effects of climate change.
My special appeal to the youth in Uganda is that we should participate in programs that promote climate change mitigations and adaptations, among others, tree planting and proper waste management. That means we change our lifestyles to reduce waste, but we should participate in greening the country through tree planting.
U-report has been useful to me in many ways. One, it has made me know different challenges in different parts of the country. Then it has made me contribute, give my answers to different questions from the different parts of the countries on matters that affect young people.
I'm proud to be a U-reporter where you're able to speak out what is in your mind, express everything without fear, say what is not good in the community so that people from all over the country listen and act accordingly.
Energy-saving stoves have been proven to save up to 40% of the firewood and charcoal used on the ordinary stoves. These stoves are very safe to use as they do not emit the gases that affect our health. Today with us on the show is a lady who has invented these stoves that do not only save on the charcoal and firewood we use, but also saves our environment.
Every stove in Uganda, which is a bit energy saving, whatever it is still using charcoal or firewood. We wanted a stove that uses none of those. And you know, not everybody in Uganda can access electricity, and not everybody in Uganda can access, any other gas. Either they can't afford it or the lines don't go as far as wherever I grew up. We wanted to make something that would be in between. It's clean,
It's energy saving as well as it's not contributing to deforestation. Eco stoves are the only stoves in Uganda and on the continent that use stones to cook. And in addition to that, the stones are reusable for up to 2 years. They do not emit any toxins or any dangerous gases to anybody's health. You see, the stone, it starts, if I put in my stove at this size, within a year it may have shrunk into just half the size. We realized that would save a lot of people a lot of money. So that was the economic aspect of it. Then using a stone would protect the environment. One, if you are using the stone, you're not cutting down a tree to cook. And from my research, I found out that actually a bag of charcoal consists of 2 to 3 trees to make a bag of charcoal. So if in your home you're using a bag of charcoal or 2 bags of charcoal a month, be sure that you're cutting 4 trees each month and you're not planting. Because of the intensity of the heat produced in the stones and it's consistent, is able to cook in half the time. So not only are you saving the time, you're also saving on the energy that we lose in that long time, the time you're spending cooking. We add value in our stove. So we put a solar, which solar gives them light, charges a mobile phone, as well as it runs the air into the stone. So that makes it a system, as in it's not just a stove that cooks. It lights, it charges mobile phones, and does all those. So that is the special features about the EcoStove system. Let's take the climate change as an issue present, and not for the rich, but it's for everybody because it affects everybody equally.
There you go, you reporters. You too can do simple things like using energy-saving stoves, briquettes, energy-saving bulbs, and stop throwing around those polythene bags, commonly called caveras. When you're going for shopping, please carry your own bag.
We need to think about our future generations and ourselves. We need to protect our environment. Cutting down trees affects our health, our food, and water supplies, which all in the end affects our livelihood.
Remember, you now have a chance to let your voice be heard. Just text the word join and send it to 8500, and you can join over 200,000 new reporters across the globe. It's all free. Remember, your voice matters. Today we find out what climate is. Wake up.
He's very confident right now.
Thousands of people were displaced. Slip of the tongue. Okay.
Stop throwing around caveras.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Okay, yeah.
Within 20 hours, 64% of the U-reporters that responded observed that rain... What was the importance of Rio Plus 20 conference that happened, and what is its significance? Take one.